All right. Mr. Mars has this week auto history.
Oh, I better cue him up.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I do. Found lots of things to talk about this week, but there's a few of them that I thought were particularly interesting, such as in 1915, Packard reveals its twin six engine. Now, they introduced this revolutionary twin six engine as the first production V12 in American automotive history. They actually did it in two generations. First generation was a 424.2 cubic inch engine, 60-degree V12, had 88 horsepower on it. Now, it had aluminum pistons, had a dual ignition system, and they produced this engine until 1923, and it was actually considered part of the brand. It was a twin six brand of the vehicles that they were producing at the time. But the second generation that I wanted to mention started in 1932. It was also a V12, but it was 445 cubic inch with 160 horsepower, but it was a 67-degree V angle, and included hydraulic lifters at this time and would do over 85 miles an hour. And an interesting note on that one is that there's a modern company, an existing company today, called the Packard Twin Six that exists, and they specialize in researching, manufacturing, and restoring parts for these classic cars. Now, in 1909, Ford sells its first Model T in Britain. Now, the car, whenever it went across there, arrived as fully built. Everything was done in America, and it was sent across so they could actually ramp up their production over there. And the British people found it just like the Americans did. It was low cost, it was easy to maintain, and they started selling them quite a bit. And it part of what got Ford into the international automotive mass production part of the business. Now, in 1947, the only fully functional Tucker 48 prototype is completed, and it was called the Tin Goose, and it was used for promotions and testing before they actually began the production. Now, the engine was the 589 cubic inch horizontal opposed six-cylinder engine in the prototype, which later became their flat six once they got into production. The transmission was a direct drive torque converters, so there was no reverse gear at the time they actually launched and took this thing out on the road. And eventually that became part of the modified Cord 4-speed manual transmission that the cars became famous for. However, the front bumpers were painted wood bumpers because they didn't have time to get the chrome bumpers finished and get them onto the car before they actually took it out on the road for marketing purposes.
Wow.
And the doors, they were standard front hinge doors on this prototype, but whenever they got into production, that's when they put in the rear hinge suicide doors. Now, this also included the famous Cyclops eye that had right in the center of the hood that turned with the steering wheel. It had a padded dashboard, had a popped out safety windshield, a lot of features that were very innovative for that particular car. Now, the original 1947 Tucker 48 prototype is on permanent display at the William Swaggart Automobile Museum in Huntington, Pennsylvania. They only built 51 of these cars. 47 of them survived, and they've documented where the other 4 were disassembled, parted out, destroyed, and all that stuff. It's a very interesting car in automotive history. 1966, Lotus unveils the Europa. Now, this was very unconventional design at the time, helped popularize mid-engine road cars, and expanded the Lotus influence from racing to production sports cars. 1973, U.S. launched mandatory fuel economy standards. Now, this is important because this was part of the fuel shortage that was going on, the gas shortage during the oil crisis, and they pushed the manufacturers to reduce oil consumption or fuel consumption across their fleets. They started downsizing, they started using lighter materials and trying to build more efficient engines. Now, this reshaped all their design priorities that were coming along at the time because it's what killed the muscle cars. And they accelerated their innovation and permanently changed how they approached efficiency. Now, what this did really and truly is set the foundation for modern future hybrid and electrical vehicle development, mandated, both real and implied, to get us to where we are today. Finally, in 1980, GM announces the Saturn project. This is whenever they envision an all-new small car division to battle Japanese competition. It came out a decade later with polymer body panels, had a no-haggle sales model when you went to the dealership, and it was one of their most ambitious restructurings that they did. But even with factory subsidies to make this car sell, It was discontinued in 2009 to the public.
Not soon
2010,
enough.
it was discontinued to everybody.
That's good.
This week in automotive history.
They should have kept that discontinued from the day that they put it on a piece of paper.
Well, polymer products. You talk about plastic doors.
That's what it
Well,
was.
the whole
It was plastic.
car was plastic.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thought that we would do.